I thought I'd share with you the projects that I'm working on right now. I've started quilting on the little quilt I showed you the other day. I've done all of the stitch in the ditch around the stems here with my straight stitch. And a lot of times when I'm working, I try to have a couple of projects going so I can be double productive. I did stitch in the ditch around the stems and the veining on this little tiny version of my Autumn Mums quilt, and I'm going to have switched over now to doing free form stitch in the ditch. So I've changed the foot on my sewing machine to use my open-toed foot so that it's easy to see what I'm doing. And I've been using silk thread because these are little quilts. As you can tell, they're not very big. There's my hand as reference. They're just little tiny versions of some of my patterns. This is Autumn Mums, the tiny version, and this is the tiny version of Iris. And so I think that the silk thread is a perfect weight for these smaller quilts. I've also been working on a quilt for my son, a bed quilt for my youngest son, and this is the pattern that I'm using. I saved an old magazine, a quilt maker from 2002 that had this design on it. I changed the leaf design a little bit because I wanted it to be more realistic, and I've been doing little zigzag around the outside edge of this because it's going to be used as a bed quilt. And then what you do is you do two squares of the two different colors, and then you cut them apart and sew them up the middle so that you get this effect working. And so I'm really excited about that. And you can see I've got all the blue done, but I'm working now on the green. The quilt's going to be blue and green when it finishes, and it's going to be queen size, so I had to make 80 of these squares, and then it'll have a sashing on it. I'm working on my new B750 quilt maker from Bernina. I'm really enjoying this machine quite a bit, and one of the great things about this machine is it has this little echo button here that allows me to let it go into sleep mode just like my computer. I think that's pretty cool. I'm going to turn this on. One of the other really cool features is when I pick the zigzag, you can see that my little eye here turned yellow, and what that means is that I saved a setting on there. So the setting that I'm using on the leaves over here, every time I go into this zigzag stitch, it's remembered, and I don't have to remember what my settings are. I think that's very cool. And then when I'm done with it, I can reset it back to default and be whatever size I want it to be. I can also save here in someplace, I think in folders, multiple stitch choices, which I think is a really cool thing to do. So just thought I'd share with you a little bit. I'm really enjoying my Bernina. One of the nice things about this Bernina is that it has an even dual feed feet, a couple of them, and whenever I'm doing straight stitching I use this one, and so that I can engage it. I also tend to keep all of my threads kind of out that I'm using it when I'm quilting, so that I can just reach over and grab them. And there's an assortment of my silks and rayons and cottons. And bottom line, what I use cotton, the Aerofill, or the bottom line in my bobbins when I'm quilting. I'm just really happy with those choices, and I use them across the board. It doesn't really matter what thread I'm using in the top. Those are the two things that I tend to like to use in my bobbin. I also have two different feed dog plates. One is open, so when I'm doing zigzag, and one has got just a single needle on there when I'm doing all the other things that I work on, and that just makes it so much cleaner when I'm working, and my stitches don't, my thread doesn't get grabbed and pulled under as easily as it would if I was using the open one for the zigzag. You do have to remember, though, when you put the single throat plate in there, that single needle throat plate in there, that you've got it in there so you don't try to zigzag. Although with this machine, it won't let me because it senses that it's in there, so I think that's really great. Anyway, I hope you all have a good weekend and get some projects done, and we have better weather next week. Happy quilting!